When I first built the dam, it wasn't some massive project like the HOA tried to make it sound. It was a private structure on my land, designed to redirect water flow and protect my property from flooding that had been an issue for years. I invested my own time, effort, and money into making it safe, sturdy, and effective. But the moment the HOA found out, they came at me like vultures. They called it an unauthorized alteration to community property, even though the land was mine and the water ran through my deeded area. Within weeks, they sent me an official notice claiming I owed them a staggering $250,000 in fines. I remember staring at the paper, completely shocked. How could they justify such a ridiculous number for something that wasn't even under their control? The notice was written in threatening legal language, filled with bold letters and underlined threats about liens, foreclosure, and lawsuits if I didn't pay up. It felt less like a homeowners association and more like a mafia-style shakedown. Neighbors even started whispering about how the board wanted to make me an example so no one else would dare stand up to them. HOA board tried to twist the narrative to make me look like a villain in the community. They sent out letters to every homeowner, claiming that my dam was a dangerous structure that could collapse at any moment and wipe out half the neighborhood. They painted a picture of me as reckless, selfish, and irresponsible. Someone who didn't care if my actions put others at risk. At HOA meetings, they stood up in front of everyone and ranted about how my project was a ticking time bomb, even though I had spent weeks researching safety measures and reinforcing the dam properly. They never asked to see the blueprints or the permits I had. They just jumped straight to fear-mongering. They even brought in a so-called expert who had never set foot on my land, but who confidently declared that my dam was unstable and a hazard to the community. The board started posting updates on the neighborhood website, warning people that I was endangering their families and their property values. Some neighbors bought into the lies and started avoiding me, while others quietly told me they thought the HOA was exaggerating just to gain more control at first. I considered just tearing the whole thing down to avoid the endless stress. The letters, the meetings, the constant threats, they were starting to wear me down. I had lawyers telling me that fighting the HOA would take years in court and cost more money than the dam itself. And part of me wondered if it was worth the headache. But every time I walked out to my land and looked at what I had built, I knew it wasn't some reckless project like they claimed. It was solid, well-engineered, and doing exactly what it was supposed to do, keeping the water in check. The thought of giving in to their bullying made my blood boil, especially when I knew the fine wasn't about safety, but about flexing their power over me. So instead of tearing it down, I made a choice to wait and see how things played out. I kept maintaining the dam quietly, making sure it was strong and prepared for anything. I didn't argue at meetings anymore. I didn't respond to their threats. I simply focused on making sure that when the time came, the structure would prove them all wrong without me having to say a word when storm season arrived. The skies opened up with a fury no one in the neighborhood had expected. Days of heavy rain turned into weeks, and the rivers and creeks around our area began to swell far beyond their normal levels. Streets started flooding. Yards turned into muddy ponds, and basements across the neighborhood began filling with water. The HOA, so focused on tearing me down, had done absolutely nothing to prepare for the inevitable weather. They never reinforced drainage systems, never cleared the storm gutters, and never once considered that their obsession with my dam was distracting them from the real dangers creeping up on their own doorsteps. Meanwhile, I watched as the water levels rose around my property, testing the strength of the dam I had carefully constructed. I checked it every morning and every night, reinforcing small areas, tightening supports, and ensuring it held firm against the relentless pressure. The more the rain poured, the more confident I became in the work I had done. While chaos spread through the community, my property remained protected behind the barrier I had built with my own hands. And I couldn't help but notice the irony of it as the rain continued. The real test began. Water surged through the neighborhood, pushing drainage systems past their limits and overwhelming every weak spot the HOA had ignored for years. I stood on my land and watched the current slam against my dam, fully expecting at least some cracks to form. But the structure held strong, just as I had designed it to. Neighbors who once avoided me or whispered behind my back suddenly came by to see if the rumors were true. And they were shocked to find that my property was completely dry while theirs was taking on water. Some even admitted quietly that they wished they had supported me instead of believing the HOA's scare tactics. Meanwhile, the HOA board scrambled in panic, sending out frantic emails, begging homeowners to set up sandbags and calling emergency services that were already overwhelmed. Their homes, built lower and without protection, were the first to flood, and the more the water rose, the clearer it became that my so-called dangerous structure was the only thing in the community actually doing its job. I didn't have to argue or defend myself anymore. Keza, the storm was proving everything for Mitha. Fallout was almost surreal to watch. The same HOA that had fined me $250,000 now stood knee-deep in water. Their prized homes and manicured lawns ruined by the very flooding they swore my dam would cause. Instead of collapsing, my dam redirected the surge away from my land and kept everything intact. While their basements filled, their cars were stranded, and their emergency plans fell apart. The board members who had written threatening letters and called me reckless were suddenly the ones calling for help, trying to figure out how to save their own properties. Some neighbors started openly questioning the HOA's leadership, demanding to know why they had wasted so much time and money chasing after me when they could have invested in real flood prevention measures. The hypocrisy was laid bare for everyone to see. And the once untouchable HOA board no longer looked like an authority, looked like a group of fools who had gambled and lost. I didn't celebrate or rub it in, but I also didn't offer them any rescue, because I knew they would have never done the same for me if the roles had been reversed.